right, we are live.
Oh.
Let's go live. Hopefully everybody finds us okay and they're not sitting on the other one waiting for us to go live.
That thing should be done, shouldn't it? Would it just delete it or no?
I tried to. Hopefully it's deleted. And I sent those two email telling them.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, guys. All right, let's we're here to talk some Badger I don't know, throwdown, smashing, buried the Badgers, however you want to say it.
Did you get the same message I got about what the Wisconsin coach said? Because I got it from somebody that follows you.
Yeah,
he doesn't
Kelvin?
follow me, but I didn't know if he wanted us to say his name, but he said that Iowa beat him up worse than Alabama.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Isn't that? Bring on Alabama. Let's bring them on.
Yeah.
All right, let's take care of business first. Kelvin found the new feed. Thank you, Kelvin. Terry found us too. All right, Terry's joining us for a change.
Hi, Terry.
Okay, here we go, guys. First of all, if you're watching this, subscribe if you haven't already. Then hit the like button. The like button helps get the algorithm out there, get more eyes on this thing. Then YouTube thinks, people like this. Let's get it sent out to them. And then, of course, comment and share. And this, as I told you guys before, this week you're sharing it with your Wisconsin Badger fans. So. All right, guys. What a fun game that was. I mean, I wasn't too crazy about the first first drive for Badgers and our first drive, which was like, a 4 or 5 and out. So at least it wasn't 3 and out. Just an admin. Terry saying she's just an admin. I will say this about Terry. She's very good at keeping the spammers out.
That's right. She's a great gatekeeper.
Yeah.
I have one of those on my page as well. I have somebody who he's really good at figuring out the spammers and they're gone. So is my wife, I guess. My wife does that too.
Oh, does she? Okay, cool. All righty. Yeah. All right, guys. Like I said, the first drive, it just looked more like the same, like the Washington game, the Michigan State game. Just take the ball and just run it down Iowa's throat. Not really run it. They kind of passed it down Iowa's throat on the right side of the field. And, of course, we were giving them a little space at first. And, it just like, I don't know. I was kind of angry at first, but then I kind of settled down as things started to work. She didn't say hi to me.
She already did. I think she thinks she already did with saying hi, everyone.
Oh,
she might have thought she said hi, Dean.
All right. No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm a big boy. All right. All right. So, anyway, I know there's a lot of things going on. We know that Sullivan was only 7 for 10 passing. I don't know what that percentage. I guess that's 70% passing, right?
Yeah,
93 yards and 1 TD, no interceptions. And KJ he has 24 carries, 135 yards, 5.6 carry average. Is that one of his lowest carry averages of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
we'll talk about that later. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah, and 3 TDs. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and some of the other running backs, it looks like got into the mix. Moulton had 74 yards for 8.2 carry. So when KJ's gone next year and Moulton comes back, it looks like he'll be our featured back because I like.
I think both of them will be. I think you'll see a lot more of both of them, Patterson and Moulton.
Moulton, yeah.
Patterson's a bull, right? He's just a different running style. Moulton is more of the shifty kid. So, yeah, I think you'll see both of those guys, Dean, next year.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I was going to say, and then Sullivan had 58 yards rushing, 6.4 carry. That's what we're missing with Cade. When you guys go back to the passing wasn't so much different than I would think Cade could do. The difference is when things broke down, or there was actually maybe a design play or two for Sullivan to run the ball. And then Patterson, 56 yards, and Weegin got 1 carry for 7 yards. Zach Ortworth, who was our replacement, our number 3 tight end, was our leading receiver with 3 receptions for 66 yards. So good job there. Gill got 2 catches for 23 yards. Bowie 1 for 6, and KJ's only catch was for a -2. Yeah.
Yep.
So, guys, what are your thoughts on the game? I mean, so, I got a couple things I want to say, but that's kind of later into the game. I just what were your kind of thoughts as you guys watched the game unfold at the beginning and things like that? Paul, go ahead, buddy.
Okay, so the game went exactly as I predicted it would, right? This is election season, and with the election coming Tuesday, I'm going to do my best impression of politicians and the media. So, if you watch the show, our preview show,
Tuesday, yeah,
it unfolded exactly the way I said it would. That, Wisconsin had left it all on the field against Penn State. And Iowa, of course, always plays really well following a game where they play really well. Just like – and the games with Iowa and Wisconsin are never close. So, I mean, literally, I said this was going to be an Iowa blowout on Tuesday.
Well, Paul, congratulations. You picked Wisconsin to win.
I'm voting for Paul.
And Paul
got my vote.
Yeah.
I am not here.
Paul the politician.
That's a good one, Paul. I really thank you for the humor and the little fun thing. But now in all seriousness, did we see a blowout coming? I didn't. As you guys know, my prediction was 19-20, a walk-off field goal for Iowa.
I think what was mine? 17-14 or something?
You were 17-14, yeah, Iowa.
Yeah.
Okay, and as the world knows, Paul picked against us, but he had the score close.
For me, the game went just by watching it. I mean, it just went when you saw how the O-line was just pushing them around, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Wisconsin head coach said, it really has nothing to do with KJ. It was the O-line. It didn't matter what running back, what quarterback was in the game. The O-line was just completely dominating, right? So, I mean, this was the best that I've seen the O-line play. Sullivan didn't have any pressure on him. He just couldn't find a receiver, and he would just take off and run it to the sideline and throw it away, or take off and pick up a few yards. Yeah. So,
did you also see? Did you guys also hear what Fickle had to say about our O-line when they were asking him about KJ, and he said KJ didn't do this. That O-line was dominant.
That's what I just said.
Oh, did you say that Fickle said that?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Guys,
I don't have
legal in California.
Well, wait a minute. First of all, I don't have my hearing aids in.
Oh, well, put them in. But it was the best the O-lines looked like literally all year. It was really neat. But when you dig into things, and I did not dig into them before our show because our show is always early during the week. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin gives up 260 yards rushing a game. So the game went exactly how most games go for Northwestern or for Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Iowa beat them up, but everybody's been beating them up. USC beat them up. Of course, Alabama beat them up. The other Penn State didn't beat them up as well, but they also lost their quarterback. So they were also using their backup quarterback, trying to figure it out. And they eventually figured it out in the second half against Wisconsin, and they Penn State blew Wisconsin away in the second half, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the reason why KJ's yards per carry was so low is because Sullivan is starting quarterback.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to see because they're going to have everybody in the box. There's no fear of the throw. And that's what Sullivan is going to have to show, that he will throw downfield. Like everybody forgets, K did throw the ball downfield when the play was called. He completed a 40-some yard pass that was all air. You remember the guy had to dive and catch it against Northwestern. So when they play against teams, there was a fear of K throwing the ball, even though the stats don't show it, which is why KJ was averaging 8 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And then this game with Wisconsin, they literally had everybody up to shut down the run because they had no other choice. And they were stopping KJ from those big 20-yard runs like he normally gets, or the 60-yarder. That's why his average was so low, and it will continue to be low with Sullivan, because they're not going to be afraid until Sullivan actually chucks it down the field. So, that's why it's going to be like that. I know everybody says Sullivan does not open up the running game. What Sullivan does is just add a dimension to the running game. He doesn't open up the running back. Says literally it's only one guy you use to stop Sullivan. And they didn't even try to stop Sullivan. Like they let Sullivan do whatever he wanted. Every time he pulled it, what happened? It was wide open, right? So, so he's going to have to keep pulling it more often. And they're going to have somebody more athletic, because it was a defensive lineman. Sullivan juked out of his shorts. They tried using a defensive lineman. And Sullivan was like this close from touching the ground with his knee. So,
oh, my God, it was probably closer than that.
No, I know. You're right. It was extremely close. But
matter of fact, it was so close, I thought he actually did.
He won't open up the running game until he actually completes passes down the field.
He completed one downfield yesterday.
Yeah, it was like a 20-yard throw in the air before all the running. But let Paul go.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway offensively was that, and yes, most of this definitely goes to the O-line, but without Lachey, who's probably, when he's healthy, and he's right, he's our number one target for the passing game. No Vander Zee, obviously no Caleb Brown anymore. No, I feel like there's another receiver that didn't play, and Noah Stranga. I mean, I thought we were gonna be very conservative and not have a lot of success offensively. Like I felt like personnel wise, that was a very real likelihood.
I mean, that could have been a big reason they only threw the ball 10 times, right?
Right.
They only threw the ball 10 times the whole game. That was probably big. So you were probably right on. You just weren't expecting the offensive line to
manhandle Wisconsin that
was a 2002 offensive line right there.
Yeah.
Road graders.
When a team like Alabama has success running the football, it's because you have to play them straight up. You can't say, you can't focus 11 guys on the running back, because they will kill you, passing the football and going over the top.
Yeah. And that's what I think. That's what I think Sullivan's going to have to do to open up the running game.
But in the end, the offensive line really was that dominant and played that well. And, so, I mean, hey, hats off to them. They really did play fantastic. But, and again, maybe this was almost all the offensive line, but the offense doesn't look hard with Sullivan. Like everything looked hard with Cade. I don't know why, but like the passing game looked hard. Even the running plays, like it just.
I don't know what that means, but okay, I'll roll with that. I mean, it looked exactly the same to me. Like that. I mean, what I saw was like KJ with Cade had wide open holes. Like that's why he was averaging. He leads the country in 20-yard runs before Sullivan got his first start.
Right.
And did he even have a 20-yard run yesterday? I'm not really sure. Maybe one or two.
I think he had a couple.
I don't know. His touchdown run was really close. That one that was under center. Like, if you think about, most of his long runs came under center.
Yeah.
Well, they had Sullivan in a shotgun a lot, and that doesn't work. Like, even his touchdown run, that was probably 20 yards out to the left, to the where they had less men to that side. It was under center, and it was just like a dive play, right through the 3-hole, right?
Yeah.
Just boom, right through here, and he took it to the house.
Yeah. But, and I want to shift gears here for a moment, because if not for KJ's 3 touchdowns, if not for the offensive line looking like, the 90s Cowboys offensive line.
I was going to say 94 Huskers, but okay.
94 Huskers, sure. I might have had to have said, like, Deshaun Lee was the player of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the big pass breakup in the end zone. He had the interception. That was the best game of his career by far.
Yeah, no, I mean, it reminded me of those days when there's the famous when they have like the 94 Huskers, when they do like that hour-long thing about everything that went on that season. Well, there's a famous thing where one of the center, whoever that was, it might have been Rayola, said he would literally go up to the line of scrimmage and tell the defense what they're going to do. And be like, try to stop it. And no one could stop it. He'd be like, we're running the fullback right here, right by this, right here. Can you stop it? Like, there's a famous line where he said that. And that's almost like what Iowa's offensive line looked like. It was like, okay, we're going to give it here. Can you stop us from getting 5 yards? Right. I mean, that was the most fun I've seen watching the offensive line just road grade. It didn't matter what running back was in. It didn't matter what quarterback was in. It didn't matter if they played pass defense or if they had 8 men in the box, 9 men in the box sometimes. They couldn't stop us from getting 5 yards. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the key, is they legit couldn't stop us from getting 5 yards, but just a couple times. It was a thing of beauty. It was fun.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to ask Hink. He says, not sure if you guys follow the Iowa game film. They had a package with Verts. I don't follow Iowa game film, but how can I? And what's a vert?
He's on. If he's talking about the former players on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
If he's talking about that Hawkeye game film, yeah, you can just get on Twitter. If you guys, Iowa game film. If he's talking about the guy on Twitter, I'm gonna have to go check it out. I didn't. Yeah, the Twitter account. Okay. You guys know I love Verts. Yeah. I'm going to definitely go and check out the Hawkeye. I mean, I know exactly what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. He's a former player.
Yeah, he said it's a Twitter account.
Yeah. The other thing, what was going on, and since we won 42-10, we can have a small bitch fest here about the officiating, because, I mean, for a hot minute there, did they just look like they were in over their head? Like,
oh my God, they're making up rules as they went along. I had rules I've never seen before in my life or heard about. What the hell was that? On both sides too.
Right.
Hey, the
defense delay a game.
Do you remember? I mean, that was a thing when Iowa first started doing the moving of the defensive linemen. They had that called on them a bunch of times in a few bowl games, if you remember right. And no one understood why. I mean, Iowa was one of the first defenses to implement that late movement by the defensive line. And, I mean, if you go – I can't remember the bowl games, but I just remember when they would move, they would get called for delay a game, and they would call Iowa for saying the snap count back then. When they weren't, they were just moving. So it was a word that they would use so they would move right at the last minute.
Probably like go or now.
Yeah, something like that. So, I mean, Iowa, I don't know if it was – I think it was Norm, who actually came up with that late movement by the defensive line. And now it's done a lot across the country. But it was the first time I've seen officials since way back when people first started doing it,
Mhm.
actually calling delayed game.
Well, that's because Wisconsin was bitching about it, bitching and moaning about it.
Well,
You know?
I mean, if they were actually saying something that was close to their snap count,
Mhm.
so that could have been a part of it. So they probably changed it to a completely off the wall word later in the game.
Mhm.
We don't know what they used in the beginning, because whatever Iowa was doing was making Wisconsin jump, right?
I know
It did move. So
Yeah.
whatever they were doing, so that's probably a part of it, because it didn't happen after that first quarter, did it?
No.
Or at least the first half.
Yeah.
What-
They were
what
saying Wisconsin players were saying they were repeating their count.
Well, they were using claps because they were going silent count because of the crowd noise.
Mm-hmm.
So they nailed us for clapping, trying to, that was one of the disconcerting signal penalties. But
that should bring you back to Nebraska.
Yeah,
the clap.
Yeah,
remember that?
Frost. They're too loud. We can't hear ourselves think on the go.
and then, but then they're talking about the shift and the quick movement. Well, then, like on the very next possession when Iowa had the football, their defensive end made a quick movement. He didn't, and it caused us to false start, and they called a false start on Rickman. And and my thought at the time, if you're going to make up rules as you go, at least be consistent about it.
Yeah. It was like they wanted a close game to start the game, and then they realized that, well, this Iowa offensive line is just destroying them. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah, we can't hold them back. We can't hold them back any longer.
There was a penalty on Black. He didn't do a dang thing. You remember that? Where what did he do? He just did something. He got unnecessary roughness because he was trying. All he was doing was protecting his player, and he just kind of pushed the guy. He didn't really do much. Yeah, he barely touched him, and even the announcer was like, "I don't know about that one." Right? So.
Yeah. At least we can laugh about it today, because if we had been on the other side of that 42-10, all we would be doing was bitching about them referees instead of laughing about it.
Well, today. I mean, if it was a close game, I feel like we'd be bitching. But if you lose 42-10, it'd be like if we were on the other end of that, the refs didn't have any say in that. But
did you guys see that what I posted earlier? I did not realize that Alabama and us both beat Wisconsin 42-10. I did not realize that. And anybody want to mention what Calvin sent out to all of us, in case other people haven't heard what the coach said about Iowa?
Is there a bunch of people in here that didn't hear it?
I have no idea.
Calvin sent us a message. He watches everything, so he knows what other coaches do as well. Wisconsin's head coach said that Iowa's offensive line beat them up worse than what Alabama did. I mean, and he also gave the O-line credit for KJ. He said it had nothing to do with KJ. He's like, the O-line just destroyed us, beat us to a pulp. And they did, right? There was one time the announcer was like, KJ wasn't getting touched for like 10 yards. Then he got touched. There was a few of those plays. So, yeah, it was, like I said, it was just one of those. It was a beautiful offensive line game. For offensive linemen, that was an Iowa offensive line type game of what we were used to in the 2000s.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, here's a comment from Terry about K just isn't confident because of his injury. I don't know if it's that. It's just that he won't run, or he's told not to run, one of the two. Did you guys notice that they didn't come after us as much with Sullivan in the game as they do with Cade? Because with Cade, it seemed like they were just coming all the time.
I wouldn't say that, but they didn't come. But do they come at any point, right? Because even with Cade, like I was saying, remember the running game was still there. KJ averaged 8 yards a carry for the season with Cade in at quarterback. So I think that was just Wisconsin's defense. Like I was telling everybody today I've had so much fun online. I couldn't even begin to tell you guys. Dean, you should have a bunch of views today because everybody was so excited about this show. It's like they don't want to watch it unless I'm wrong. Like there's some people out there who just want to watch it when I'm wrong. And I'm not gonna say I'm wrong yet because this reminds me of Padilla. All the Iowa fans that are saying this about Sullivan said the same thing about Padilla over Petrus when he took down Wisconsin. He took down Minnesota. He took down Northwestern. But what happened against Nebraska? They couldn't do anything the first half. The second half, they brought Petrus back, and Petrus led us to the victory in the second half. Now, granted, most of that was this is going to go to my same point. Most of that was T-Good, right? T-Good busted out in the second half. Well, a lot of that had to do with the threat of Petrus throwing the ball. Regardless how accurate he is, you don't want to leave a receiver wide open. This is what Sullivan does, where they're just worried about him running. They're not worried about him throwing. With Cade, they're actually worried about him throwing downfield, even though he doesn't do it very often, but the coaches have to worry about it, which is what happened against Northwestern when he threw the ball down the field and completed it. Well, the Northwestern had to kind of change up where they couldn't just send everybody because Cade threw the ball down the field.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be the same situation. Now, get back to what I was saying about UCLA. I will start to change my mind if this offense does something similar to UCLA. UCLA's defense is nothing compared to, or is a lot more compared to what Wisconsin was. They're 11th in the country against the run. What they did to Nebraska, like I needed to see UCLA do what they did to Nebraska for me to really believe it. They shut down Nebraska. Nebraska couldn't do hardly anything, right? So, and if you think about it, just 5 weeks ago, everybody was like, Nebraska's going to kill Iowa, blah, 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 right? I mean, to me, fans are just, maybe they're called fanatics for a reason. So right now, they're just on their high horse talking about Sullivan. But if Sullivan does something that Padilla couldn't do and actually continue on against a good defense, if he does it against UCLA, then I'll be like, okay, maybe there's something there. But if he doesn't, they're going to replace Sullivan with Cade again, the same type situation to see if Cade can do anything. Yeah. They're just not going to ride with Sullivan if they can't run the football or anything.
Okay.
I mean, that's what you are, Terry. Yeah. I mean, some fans are. Like, a lot of fans are. This is what I'm saying. People are saying the same thing about Padilla. So I need this week against a good defense. Northwestern Wisconsin was terrible on defense. So if he does it this week, then I'll be like, okay, there's something here, and I'm completely wrong.
And
so,
you know,
we'll see.
I'm all too happy to take a little dig at the Ferentz fatiguers. If any of you guys are watching, this one came courtesy of the Big Ten Network. But you know, Iowa's now 19-2 in their last 21 November football games.
19-1.
Huh?
19-1. Somebody put a 2 out there, but that's incorrect information. It's 19-1.
Okay, 19-1 and 20, 19-2 and 21. Probably, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's a staple of Kirk, right? He gets better as the year goes.
Yeah,
it's always been like that.
I mean, there's nothing I hate more than winning November football games. I mean,
what was that? You, Paul? Then that said that. I remember that message, but I don't remember who it was from. I get so many.
Oh yeah,
I saw something about 19-2.
Yeah,
was that you that sent that? Okay.
Yeah. I said that came from the Big Ten Network, so I'll give credit where credit's due there. You know, I didn't, do that research, but
that was your great reporting. You used Big Ten Network for your great reporting.
Okay. Well, this is how I saw it on the internet somewhere. How they posted it was that Iowa's won 19 of the last 20 November games or 21 games. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I read that wrong. Okay.
Well, anyhow, if they've won 19 of their last 21 or they're 19-2.
That would be 2. That would be 2, yeah.
That's still 90% winning percentage. 90.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The defense is getting better, and I got Deshaun Lee finally showed up. Finally showed up big time. What a game he had.
my son was excited about that because he doesn't like Lee. Because every time Lee was in there, when my son obviously was watching or something, Lee would get toasted, right? He just remembers those 2 plays he got toasted on against Troy. I think both Hall has his moments, Lee has his moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like once they both figure it out, then they better by next year. They're going to be really good. They have skills. You saw the skills. Lee in zone defense has the skills. I just think Parker's defense sometimes confuses them, so they stutter a little bit. Right? They're not quite sure. But when they're sure on what they're supposed to do, they're really good. Right?
Lee had 1 pick and almost had 2. Remember, he had one before that he dropped that he could have had.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he could have had 2. Yeah.
What a confidence builder this game for him, because I think it's just going to come out and he's going to work that much harder. This time he's just like, okay, I've got 1, I want more. That's how it is. Once you get that first one,
And that play in the end zone was as good as you can't play corner any better than that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's how Parker. We could talk about that for a minute. That's how Parker teaches it. You know how? I mean, I get mad about this too. You know how we get mad at the corner not turning around and looking for the ball, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you know what route you recognize it. Turn around, find the ball. That's what a lot of us fans say. Parker does not want them to do that. What he wants them to do is read their hands and knock it out. And what you're saying is exactly perfect technique. Because remember, the receiver caught it. Yes. And then Lee got in there and just ripped it out. That's what Parker teaches. That moment right there is probably what they're going to have on the coach's tape. He's going to be like, look what Lee did. This is what I'm talking about. Right in front of the whole defense. He's going to be like, this is what we do right here.
And I think the biggest thing for the defense the last 2 games is we're playing complementary football. The offense is doing their part, so the defense doesn't have to keep going out there after 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And the special teams having lead gen, return kicks. Yeah, it has been all 3 phases. And yes, it's more than just Lee, but Lee and X and Hall were the biggest reasons of the defensive struggling in the passing game. Now, the running game, we don't know what to say about the running game against Michigan State. Remember that? We could stop whatever they did with the running game. We had no answers.
We had no
However, with the struggling of the passing, it's been Lee, X, and Hall, right? And that's why we're talking about Lee.
You can't discount how much of an impact Castro makes on the defense and having him on the field. I mean, he's an NFL level talent.
Yeah, he's a safety or a linebacker at the NFL. So the running game issues was a lot with him being gone. I will agree with that.
Okay. All right. Let's just address this. I know we'll probably do it on the UCLA preview show, but the only thing that scares me about UCLA is a bunch of college kids, mostly from the Midwest, going to LA on a short week. I know that a lot of people are worried about this time zone thing, and I mean, apparently it has become a factor in win-loss records, but I think people are making more of a big deal out of it than they are, because you get on an airplane from Iowa, you'll be in Los Angeles in 3 to 4 hours. And I take it as a guy who's gone back and forth between California and Iowa a million times on an airplane. I've not really ever been affected by the time zone change. And maybe I'm just used to doing it.
Have you ever played in a Division I football game on your trips?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever gotten your butt whipped on these trips?
No.
I mean, I agree with
you.
Little bit.
So you think I'm taking this time zone change thing too lightly, is what you're saying?
Well, maybe a little bit. I mean, what I'm going to say is, you're right in one aspect, but what they did to Rutgers, having them play at 10 o'clock at night, and that
was ridiculous. That's ridiculous for anybody, but.
So that was, their game didn't get over 1 or 2 a.m. Rutgers time.
Yeah.
So that's
okay.
With what Iowa has, they do have an 8 o'clock, which is a 6 or what? It starts at 6 o'clock your time, right? So it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, 8 o'clock their time. So it's not real bad. I mean, it's later than they're used to.
Yeah. That's not really bad, but What I will say is I'm glad it's a short week, because then the kids, they're not going to go to California and look around and go, hey, look at LA, right? They're not going to just they're going to have to focus on football, so I think the short week this week actually helps for these college kids, because they're just going to fly there, they're going to practice and then play the game. Or sometimes they go on a Thursday and it's a Saturday game. Then you go through your walkthrough, your practice, but then you have Friday night to think about stuff, and they're going to be in California and LA.
Right.
So I kind of like it's a short week.
Yeah, it is kind of sad though that this is a business trip on a short work week, because then you got to turn around and come back. That these guys couldn't at least enjoy it for a day or two.
See, you just took it to where I didn't want it to go.
Right.
But you're right.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, can we talk about, because we have all of this evidence now with the teams traveling 2 or more hours and that being a deal or that being a thing. First of all, yesterday, road teams were 6-0 until the Iowa and Washington. Right.
Yep.
So there's that. But what I really wanted to talk about was why the time difference matters. These are finely tuned athletes, right? Their bodies are trained to kind of like fire at intervals of the day, but the practice times, the game times, whatever. So when your body clock is off by a couple of hours,
no, you're 100% accurate, because that's why KF changed his practice schedule to go right with what you were saying, to 6 a.m. Like, he got tired of when they were getting beaten bowl games. Remember all that? Just the timing, everything was weird. Then he changed the practice schedule to they're practicing at 6 a.m. So now the heat in the summer, like everything during the fall, doesn't affect them as much because they're practicing first thing in the morning. So their bodies their muscles adjust to what your life is, right? I mean, they legit are ready to fire at certain times of the day, which is why you warm up to try to get them ready, regardless of the time. But you are right in a way, is they may not be full maxed muscles because of the time of the game. Their body isn't used to being up that late, going back to what happened to Rutgers. So it's not like you can just play at 10 p.m. when your body's used to sleeping at 10 p.m. your time.
Yeah.
So,
but then again, these are 20-year-old college guys.
Oh, right.
If they weren't playing a football game, they'd be out at the bar at midnight. So I mean, that's not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There is a difference in a Division I athlete if you're playing. Right. But I mean, there's a bunch of us back in our early 20s remember getting drunk, having a hangover, and going to work. Right. So, I mean, so yeah, we remember your 20s, your body can take a lot, but we didn't have to play a Division I football game, I guess, which is my point, is the muscles are used to your times, your sleep. That's why they keep track of your sleep. What hours are you sleeping? Everything.
And so, so that was kind of the point I was getting at with the, not just Iowa, but all the teams that are having to do these, trips.
Exact same thing.
The travel aspect of it isn't such a big deal. And even maybe the time change isn't such a big deal. But what can be a big deal is these guys, they're set to fire at high noon, and now you're starting a game at 2, you're starting a game at 4, you're starting a game at 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. And
no, you're right. I mean, at least it's 8 o'clock and not 10 o'clock. I mean, that was my biggest fear. Going to UCLA, my biggest fear was like a 10 o'clock game. I'd rather it be 7 o'clock, but I mean, 8 o'clock's close enough, I guess.
Wait, so if the game is starting at 7 Central or 8?
8.
Jesus, so the game's not going to start here until 9.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul. Hope you don't have to work Saturday. You got to work Saturday.
I will not be working Saturday.
At least it's a Friday night, so you can still enjoy a beer, a cocktail, whatever your preference is, and watch the game. and then just fall asleep after the game.
That's what I did last night.
So there you go.
These stupid games getting so late. But in California when they start at 4:30, you still got the game's over by 7:30. What the hell am I going to do the rest of the night?
Yeah, that would be weird for me waking up, because don't you have 9 a.m. games then when they start at 11 Central?
Yes.
So they're 9 a.m. for you. I don't know what I would do if football was.
I don't
over
get to see too much of those 9 a.m. games when my grandchildren are doing soccer and volleyball before noon on Saturday. So I'll watch those before I watch that. And I've even, as you guys know, I've even put Hawkeyes on hold while I went to their volleyball and soccer games.
You know what? I love those 9 a.m. West Coast kickoffs. My oldest daughter was born at Naval Medical Center, San Diego, and I was out there for about a month during football season because she was born in October. And I'd catch the trolley there in San Diego and go to this sports bar, like a Hawkeye sports bar. And I mean, it was kegs and eggs and kickoff at, they'd open the door about 8:30. And
right.
Yeah, man, it was kegs and eggs, baby. And football.
Those were the days.
Yeah. Hey, Terry, 8 for you. Do you guys stay on daylight savings time? Because it should be 7 for you in the Mountain Time Zone. So,
I think Arizona doesn't do time changes.
She's in New Mexico.
Or New Mexico, one of those states.
You're right, because half the year California and Arizona are in the same time at the same time, and it's confusing when you're flying planes at that time because you're thinking that you're going into Mountain Time Zone. No, Arizona doesn't change the time. So you don't get that hour's difference.
I never knew that. That's interesting to me. I thought it was like, I don't even know, but because they don't have farming there, maybe. Is that what because it's only for farmers. That's what daylight savings time was. It's for farmers to be in the field.
I'm just full of
Arizona. So New Mexico does, but Arizona doesn't.
Arizona does not. Yeah.
Look at guys.
Knows a lot for being so young.
Yeah, it's 5:12, and I'm getting dark already. By 5:30, I'll be pitch black.
Yeah. So.
We promised Hank a while ago we'd talk about that in our last episode, and we never did.
Oh, yeah, we did. You're right.
Yeah. Are we seriously going to talk about replacing Kirk after we just won 42-10 over Wisconsin?
I mean, I honestly still am on the same page because of just the stuff the conversations I have had. If they do win 10 games and Kirk does get the record, it's possible. But if he doesn't get the record, and even if he does, if he's having a lot of fun, right? If all of a sudden with this, he loves offensive line football. I think what he's really getting tired of is how the offensive line, they're just not what he's used to, right? They're not even coming close to what he was used to. I think that actually frustrates the heck out of him because there was times.
Then he's got a coach that he hired to do that. He better do something about it.
Well, no, but he's worked with the line too. That's what. It's not just Barnett. KF has worked with the line with Barnett, right? So but like to me personally, now I'm not Kirk when it comes to the offensive line. I just believe it goes back to what we talked about last episode with how they do more gap now, they do more counters now, and it's not that zone blocking. And they don't recruit
guards and stuff. Yeah.
They don't recruit like athletes anymore because they would recruit tight ends and make them offensive linemen, right? They would recruit athletes. Now they recruit hog mollies. They can't do all that zone blocking.
Yep. Yeah. And by the way, I'd like to bring this up because there's all these comparisons, and rightfully so because of the statistics between Sean Green's Doak Walker winning season and KJ's season this year. Sean was running behind 3 NFL offensive linemen and an NFL tight end in 2008. Balaga was on that line.
And there was a lot of good ones in 2009 when we had 2 freshman running backs do very well, but the offensive line was dominating in 2009 as well.
Right.
I mean, you're 100% right there.
So what we're saying is KJ could be having a really great season if we'd had a better offensive line than we do.
No, what I'm saying is that what he's doing is even more amazing because this is an improving offensive line.
Yes, it is.
But there's nobody on this offensive line right now that's on the level of a Brian Balaga.
No. Colby was supposed to be, right? He was supposed to be, and he's getting better. And like I said, if they continue, and I think it's all Lester, it's the difference in the running scheme. Like I said, we don't do that zone blocking anymore. There's no more running to the left and losing 4 yards because we're doing that zone and a guard, and the guard can't get to their guy, right? We're not using big old hog mollies to run an offense that they can't do. We're actually destroying people with our size, right, and strength. There's a reason why the quarterback sneak was always a great play for Iowa, even with the last few years of a bad O-line, because they are straightforward power hog mollies. We got a bunch of fatchies on the line. So
or you put Kate Pieper in there to push you into the end zone.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is the way we're running the ball now is how they should have been doing before, but Kirk has always been that zone stretch guy, right? And so is Brian, obviously. That's Kirk's offense. So bring in the gap, the counters, the stuff where the linemen don't have to reach a guy that's freaking 5 yards away. So, I mean, a lot of the success he's having this year is a lot of success the offensive line is having is the change in philosophy.
And
huge difference.
The other thing with this is, so we're still playing in a phone booth, right? But we're not doing these slow developing, asking, running backs to be patient and whatever. No, these are like you're talking about with the blocking. We're going forward. We're not going sideways.
Which is what the zone blocking is. You're going sideways.
Right.
And the running back's supposed to be patient and pick a hole, right?
Right.
It's either all the way outside or, it's in the 7 hole, 5 hole, whatever the running back sees, he's supposed to cut it up in. Well, if your line's not getting to that guy, well, Kelvin's right there. Paul and I discussed that a couple years ago on this channel. Paul and I have a lot of discussions on this channel about
Paul used to say, "Why don't we run more motion? Why don't we run more motion?
I mean,
pre-snap motion." Yeah, I remember Paul screaming for that.
We literally did a video of me showing the motion that they were using and
that
how well the motion
game was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, even with Brian, you remember that? I mean, there was that KJ's freshman years. They used a lot of that motion. Yeah. Right? That was when we did the video, and I showed video of all the runs against Purdue with the motion, how it took linebackers away, and it just left KJ wide open. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kelvin's right.
Yeah. By the way, hard to say. This is our 3rd football season together, guys, and I guess I had forgotten that KJ was a freshman our first football season together, the 3 of us. So. In case anybody's wondering, this is our 3rd football season. I don't know if we're going to be together for basketball. These guys haven't talked to me about it yet.
I mean, we can. I'm actually thinking about going live for basketball. So, some things should be changing in my life to where I could do it. So we could do basketball. Starts tomorrow, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, the first game, first real game?
Yep, tomorrow night at 6, I think, on BTN Plus.
I never did get my basketball preview show out, and
Paul,
I'm doing my women's preview show. I'm hoping this Thursday night. I got a special former Hawkeye coming on with me, a women's player who was part of the era of what's her name, Stringer. Went to the Final Four with Stringer's team. Wow. We just have to make sure that we can make this work. But she's really excited and can't wait to get on here and do this. And so I'm really excited. I just happened to ask her and she was all over it. So
yeah, no, that sounds great. But Paul, BTN Plus is only maybe $100 for the year. I can't remember what I pay. It just comes out, but it wasn't that much. I think it's like $10 a month, maybe.
Like $9.99 a month if you just focus on the Hawkeyes.
Gotcha.
Yes, that's all I do. Yep.
Yeah, that's all I do too. It's not that big of a deal, but if it is a big deal to you guys, just get it for the first couple of months of the basketball season. Then by January, they'll all be on regular channels, and you don't need to. You can just cancel it after that.
Yeah, you can cancel anytime. I don't because I need it for baseball and softball. But yeah, that's why I pay it for yearly is for softball and baseball.
Yeah,
but you don't need it in January, obviously.
Yeah. And I dropped ESPN Plus because every time Iowa went on the road in baseball or softball, it was ESPN Plus, not BTN Plus. Carried the game.
Well, should we address our picks?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, none of us had a great week. Actually, Jason is the only one with a winning percentage this week.
What?
Jason went 5-3. You lost Illinois, Nebraska, and USC.
Oh, I did pick. I picked Nebraska. That's right. I did. I thought I had a good week. I forgot who I picked.
Paul was kind of the worst, and I didn't realize this, but he was 3-5, losing Illinois, Nebraska, USC, Purdue, and Wisconsin.
You picked Purdue?
I didn't pick Purdue.
I got you down here for Purdue.
I think
we're gonna have to go back to the tape. We gotta go back to the tape.
Check the tape.
We'll go back to the tape. We'll go back to the tape. We might owe Paul a win here.
Who would pick Purdue after I picked them every week and they lost every week?
Yeah,
I did. I lost.
Oh, am I the only one that picked Northwestern? That's
on this now, Paul. And in Paul's defense, sometimes the way he talks, you think he's picking one way, and then at the last second he switches on you. So I may have written Purdue down the way you talked, and you may have gone to Northwestern. So
he does.
Sorry about that.
He gives you all the hype, and then all of a sudden he's like, "But I'm picking."
Well, if they do start, Cade, at least they'll be in California, and the riot won't be as bad. Could you imagine if they did that in Kinnick Stadium Friday night?
Brendan Sullivan starting. I know people still. I mean, these are some of the arguments I had today. I guess if you want to talk about a little bit, go through the picks and then we can address this. We can talk.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I went 4-4. I lost Penn State. You guys both picked Ohio State. I lost Illinois along with you guys. I lost Nebraska along with you guys. Who knew that UCLA was becoming a better and better team? Now they scare me more than they did at the beginning of the season. I had also picked Purdue. Somebody tell me why I was stupid enough to pick Purdue. I don't know.
I'm thinking Nebraska is good.
I will not be picking Purdue the rest of the season.
I don't think it's that UCLA is that good. Nebraska's not that good.
Yeah, they're not. And that's just another part of our fandom. Remember, just a couple weeks ago, Nebraska's going to kill Iowa, blah, blah, blah. And now they've lost how many in a row? The previous recording is under further review, Paul.
I love that.
Challenge flag. I'm throwing the red flag.
I'm just going to give it to Paul because we both know how when he picks his picks, how he's. I'm going to switch his win total. I'm going to give him one more win total.
I'm not going to lie. He does do that. He's always hyping up one team and then he picks the other team. But I will address what Hank really said about the rioting. So Sullivan's going to start the same way Padilla started, right? I just addressed this in the beginning, I believe. Sullivan will start, and if he struggles, we'll see Cade. The same thing happened. Padilla started as they kept winning, but then remember against Nebraska, Padilla started. They played horrible in the first half. He was god-awful, so they brought in Petrus in the second half, and T-Good went off because there was a threat of the throw, even though Petrus isn't very accurate. But there was a threat that they would actually throw it. Everybody wanted Padilla because he had legs, remember? Same thing we're going with Sullivan. Exactly the same. They wanted a more athletic quarterback. Padilla was an athletic quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
However, you have to be more than just an athletic quarterback. If in the style that we play, we don't run the triple option, nothing like that. You have to be able to do more than just run the football. Granted, if the offensive line does what they did, none of this matters. Like, none of it's going to matter. If they just push UCLA around, which is going to be a lot harder than it was Wisconsin, then it won't matter. But Sullivan is going to start and go from there. They're not going to just – and it's all up to Lester. This is the first year. This is all the arguments I've had. Oh, man, some Hawkeye fans are just nuts. It's okay when we don't throw for 100 yards when Sullivan's playing. Now we're a running team. It was, but when KJ was averaging 8 yards a carry with Cade in there, no, that's horrible. We can't even pass for 100 yards. Oh, but anyway, I mean, it's all insane. But Sullivan's going to play because it doesn't matter what Kirk says. Granted, you know, they talk about it, but Lester is making the decision who starts. Now, I said Lester does like Cade. But I don't see Lester doing that to Kirk, knowing everybody's going to blame Kirk if Cade starts. Plus, with how Sullivan is played, you can't say Sullivan shouldn't start. Like, Cade should start over Sullivan because of what we've seen on the field. Yeah. Sullivan is going to start the same way Padilla did. And Kirk probably would start Sullivan as well just because of what we have seen. Now, Kirk is in love with Petrus. We all know that. It broke his heart to put Petrus on the bench. However, the team was winning with Padilla. They were playing okay offense. But then when he really struggled against Nebraska that game, at halftime, we came out with Petrus. And they came back and won. I mean, that's a situation we're in. Both quarterbacks are winning games. Cade was in the game against Minnesota when we went for how many second-half points did we score against Minnesota? KJ went off for 150 yards rushing in the second half alone with Cade in there. So, but I mean, to get everybody, Sullivan's going to start. So just be happy.
Yeah,
get your win.
I think I was just going to say I think Cade's only passed for over 100 yards twice this year.
I mean,
I could be wrong.
With KJ doing what he's doing. They got to stop KJ, so the play action pass is there. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to read you a couple of things that we ran into. We are now averaging 30.8 points a game. We have officially doubled last year's scoring output. And this year, the offense is doing most of it. It's not a defense thing.
Well, I was going to bring that up too, but I want Paul to finish his point. And then
go ahead, Paul. I didn't realize Paul was talking. I'm sorry.
You're good. No, I was gonna go back to Nebraska sucking for a moment, just because it's fun to talk about.
I'm always ears on that.
Right. So I want you guys to fire up your flux capacitors and take a trip back to the 90s and tell yourself we could have a bowl season with no Florida, Florida State, Nebraska, USC, Oklahoma. And I think there was one of Michigan and Michigan. Those 7 teams are in danger of not making a bowl game. And that's just crazy.
No, that's a pretty good point. When we were sitting there talking about Kirk, and that's another thing I argued today. Everybody, even after a 42-10 victory, everybody said the game has passed Kirk. I'm like, Kirk has to start losing before you can fire him. Like, then you end up with bad karma. Then you end up being Wisconsin. Then you end up being Nebraska. I mean, that is silly. He's literally one of 5 teams, and this is with Iowa. This isn't with Alabama. This is with Iowa. We're one of 5 teams to at least win 8 games every year since 2015. 5 teams, and the other 4 have won national titles, but the other 4 are – like Alabama and so on and so on and so on, right? We're not those teams. No matter how much money you spend, we're not going to be those teams. So, and like everybody wants Mark Stoops, and we saw what Kentucky's doing. Remember, just a couple years ago, they wanted Mark Stoops.
Yeah.
Because he won 9 games with Kentucky. So yeah, Kirk has to start.
First of all, I don't want people like Stoops and the guy at Colorado State who are all aging, because I want a young and up-and-comer when it is time for Kirk to leave, and he will leave.
Yeah.
I forgot I had something else I wanted to bring up, and I forgot what it was. Oh,
you just yelled at Paul.
What?
Paul was trying to say something, and Dean's out of nowhere. Something to say.
I don't know. Gosh darn it. Paul hesitates. He takes a breath too much. He just needs to keep talking like you do. Go for it, Paul.
Not everybody talks as no. You don't want him like that. You don't want him in my brain talking.
I thought Clemson had like a 6 or 7 win season a year or two ago when they were playing DJ Agulier or whatever his name is.
I think they did win 8 games. They went to a bowl game, but you're right. They weren't very good.
Well, according to our walking encyclopedia here, Calvin says Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, OSU, and Iowa. That's hard to believe that only 5 teams have had 8 wins or better, and we're among that. We're among that special group.
Yeah.
No, what I wanted to say is, if you guys can give me just a minute to mention it, they put out the standings yesterday, and depending how you look and do your math, we're either 5th or tied for 3rd, which I thought was pretty cool. You know, we're actually tied with Minnesota, but we own the tiebreaker over Minnesota.
Yeah.
Not that it means anything in these standings.
I had somebody actually send me a message today explaining. They gave me the rundown of Iowa could actually still be in the Big Ten championship game, but all the chips, like going off the schedule, I would not take this much time, because you got to go through and see, like Indiana's got to lose 3 or Oregon's got to lose 3. So it's Indiana's really got to lose 3, and then it goes down the list on how Iowa would get in the championship game with tiebreaker. I mean, I don't see Indiana losing 3 now the way they've been playing.
Right.
I mean,
and I don't see Ohio State losing 2 more.
Nice.
I mean,
or they'd have to lose 3 more for us to jump ahead of them.
Mathematically, there are some positive Hawkeye fans saying, hey, if we can run the table, blah, 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 can happen. And even if they finish the season 9-3, they'll be 7-2 and could possibly still creep up in as being a top 4 in the Big Ten. Or, if they're a top 3 team in the Big Ten, they could still sneak into the playoff. Like, there is some positive fans that are sending me messages saying, I mean, this is if obviously the chips have to fall, right? So if something happened, we'd all be like, boy, we got lucky.
Well, and going back to Michigan real quick, they play at Indiana this week. They still have Ohio State, and I forgot who their 3rd team is, but they could go from national champions to not even making a bowl game, and I don't think that's ever happened in the modern era of
no, I agree.
Or
yeah.
More.
I
So
love
and the runner-up is in the same boat.
Yeah. I love Hank saying Wisconsin wanted to win championships, and they have sucked since the firing of Paul Chryst. We all discussed it when they fired Paul, and then Brian with the Fickle is an up-and-comer. Probably, I think that's something going off what Dean said. I want a young up-and-comer. Well, you got Fickle.
Yeah, that is. But
Wisconsin.
Fickle rode that one great season he had that was at Cincinnati, right? Yeah. All the way to Wisconsin, and he still hasn't got Wisconsin to where.
Well, what he did, if I'm being
where the fans want him to be.
Yeah. But same with the Iowa fans. But what I can say, what Fickle actually rode was an NFL quarterback. He had an NFL quarterback at Cincinnati playing that weak schedule with a very good quarterback. And they won most of their games, right? They would still lose the teams that they should lose to, but they were destroying teams that they should be level on because they had such a good quarterback.
Wasn't he also like interim head coach at Ohio State for a few games or something, and then
I think
had success in Cincinnati, and then it's like, you know,
he was for like the last it was like 8 games, but they finished. I'm not even sure if they made it to a bowl game with that Ohio State team. Like they were awful. They might have went 6-6 or something.
I think they came down here to the Gator Bowl. Actually, it was like a Florida Ohio State Gator Bowl in like 2015-ish.
I don't know. His stint was right after what's his name got fired. The dude that cheated,
Urban Meyer.
No.
The guy with the sweater vest.
Yes,
what was his name?
It was Tressel. So it was way before 2015. It was with Tressel.
There we go. Kelvin's got it.
And I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure he was the head coach. They came down here to the Gator Bowl and played Florida, I think.
Yeah, they went 6-6. I'm putting my phone away, Kelvin. Whatever. I was going to look it up.
Calvin says he never looks it up. He just remembers it.
Yeah, Fickle is definitely on the hot seat. I know some Wisconsin fans that were so excited saying, you guys should fire Farron, blah, blah, blah. Look what we do. We want to win at Wisconsin. Yeah. Sure you do. Look what we did. I mean, there's still Iowa fans that say that.
Yeah.
Like Wisconsin actually wants to win. They fired their head coach.
I feel like Nebraska's been cursed ever since their AD came out and said we had to evaluate where Iowa is as a program or where we are as whatever after that one of those Iowa-Nebraska games, and they haven't played in a bowl game since.
No, but you know what?
They said that, but I think the curse actually goes all the way back to when they fired Bo Pelini, who won 9 and 10 games every year.
Yep.
Right?
Isn't that the year they fired Bo Pelini?
What?
Wasn't that the year they fired Bo Pelini? When they did the evaluation?
I think they fired him in 2014. When was their last bowl game? I'm not sure, but I think they fired him.
I think somebody said like 2016 or something like that.
Yeah, 2016, because it's been 8 years.
Okay, so then they went to a bowl game in 2016, but the curse started in 2014, and it's just been downhill ever since. And then the AD said, you know what Paul just said, and well, we've seen what's happened.
So
yeah,
but to me,
well, speaking of Nebraska, as long as we're making fun of Nebraska, what about their quarterback? Is he done for the year? Is he coming back next week? Well, he's on a bye week, but
they don't.
What do you guys know? What are they saying in Nebraska?
He just took a shot to the back, right? I mean, he had the pad on, so it was just a muscle spasm. Like he went out thinking he was fine, but anybody who's had a muscle spasm, they come out of nowhere, right? So he went out there thinking, I'm going to try it. But then all of a sudden he was like, oh, because
I've been there, done that.
We've all been there. He just had a back. I think he's going to be back. And he just had a back spasm in that moment. And it just made it look worse because he's on camera in front of everybody. When we've all been through stuff like that at home, where you get a cramp in your leg or you get a spasm and you're like, oh, shoot.
He did take he took a pretty good shot. So
he did. He was dumb. He was dumb in what he did, but he's so big. He must have forgot he was playing Division I football. I don't know if you guys seen it. He went forward into 2 guys, and one guy just drilled him from the side, apparently in the back. So, and it wasn't. I mean, it was just a big-time hit. He should have slid like quarterbacks do, but he's 6'4" or 6'3", 240 pounds, right? He's thinking he's in high school still for whatever reason, and he learned. He learned in a bad way. So
he's probably sore today.
Oh, yeah, I agree. But I think he's going to be back. Answer the question.
Yeah, but he's on a bye week,
yeah,
so he'll be fine, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I think it's fortunately because he's going to throw a bunch of picks against Iowa. He just chucks it. Right now, he's not really reading defenses. He's going to his primary, and he puts the ball in. He's very accurate, don't get me wrong, but he puts the ball in some bad places, thinking he's throwing to the right guy. He just threw it right to a UCLA guy. The very first play of the third quarter, he just, it must have been what he was taught. He just threw it right to the guy for a pick six.
Yeah.
So,
and, there was one of the craziest interceptions you'll see in that game, in that UCLA-Nebraska game, until you see Nick Jackson's interception like an hour later. Like, we one-upped him. I don't know if you guys saw that pick or not, but it was.
Yeah, no, I saw it. But what really got me going when you said the Nick Jackson pick. I mean, he played soccer. I mean, we just had all kinds of stuff going on that Nick Jackson pick.
Well,
Hey, what is the rule if he kicks the ball back to himself? So
it's against the rules.
on purpose. It's against. Okay.
Yeah.
But they couldn't prove that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was just doing his best Hayden Fry kick.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh, those days were the best. I mean, I was young, but I still loved it. He was so animated on the sidelines. That was fun. Those were the days before Kirk. Yeah, oh yeah. Hayden, you knew
I loved
what
his
he
news conferences.
Yeah, you knew what he was thinking. You don't know what Kirk's thinking. He's the same person.
Guys, I got to tell you a story. It may have been Hayden Fry's first year, but I was on the sideline doing camera work for KWWL, and I'm sitting next to all these football players, and there's Hayden Fry and everything. And I think we went up like 21-0 on Indiana, and we lost the game like 24-21 or something like that. I don't remember the exact score, but we lost.
That was the game day coach. What's the guy?
Lee Corso?
Lee Corso. That was like their only goal of the season.
Oh, okay. So anyhow, I remember getting in Hayden Fry's way because I was trying to get a good picture, and it's like, get out of my way, and he's trying to coach a game. Oh, one of my favorite stories. I had a press pass. I had access to everything, and I brought my buddy with me, and we went and spent some of the time up in the press box eating all that great food that they got up there for everybody.
What year was the Indiana game?
I'm going to say it was either his first or second year as coach. I don't think it was his third year. That was his winning year.
1979?
79, I believe.
Yeah, so that would have been Lee Corso.
Yeah, that would have been his first year at Iowa. Yeah. Okay. So, that was fun.
Lee just brought that game up on game day when they were at Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And he talked about going into Iowa, getting down like 21-0 at halftime or 21-0 in the first quarter, something like that. And he said, and he went in and gave some speech at halftime. He wasn't even sure the guys were going to come out of the locker room. And then,
then they came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw him say it, but he was right, but you'd have to, it's a judgment call by the refs. Those are the plays that suck because it is a judgment call. It just depends on what the ref saw. I mean, when you see a foot go up, clearly it doesn't look like he did it on purpose because of his body, right? You can always tell if somebody's swinging their leg. Like there was a play in the NFL today where a guy got called for tripping when you could legit see he was falling and he didn't like do anything. He barely touched the dude and they called him for tripping. It was against my Broncos. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I got a little frustrated with that one. We were bailing hay.
Hay. That's when you had it on the radio, listen to WHO or somebody or whoever happened to be your person, because there was 3 or 4 of them. Frosty Mitchell, Bob Brooks. Yeah. Jim Zabel. My man was Jim Zabel because you couldn't find a better fandom guy. A fan of the Hawkeyes. Who cared if he didn't have any professionalism when he was? I loved it. I loved it.
It would have been like 8 years later, Kelvin. I was bailing hay. I was driving a 1-ton truck with a wagon like this, in Granny Low, because Granny Low would go by itself. All I did was steer, and my uncles were throwing hay bales. I wasn't big enough to throw hay bales quite yet.
But you could ride the thing.
Yeah, Grandpa would put it in Granny Low, pop the clutch, and it would be like, all I had to do was follow the hay bale line.
One ton pickup. Wasn't the front end off the ground then?
No. You just pop the clutch and you literally do like 10 mile an hour. And it was an international truck.
Oh, okay. I gotta find that tape of Pat Anger's rant after the delay of game on the defense, because apparently he really went off. I gotta find that. I gotta go back and see if I can find that.
It should be on YouTube. They have their YouTube channel with the camera.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Oh,
I just got to go and find what part it's on there. Obviously it's still early in the game when it happens, so I don't have to look for a long time.
True.
All righty.
Yeah,
guys, should we call it there?
I think we'll wrap it up here.
Okay, guys, I still want to go Tuesday, even though it's election night and people want to be in front of their TVs and watch election returns all night.
I
do have to work late Tuesday, but I should be home 6:30 my time. So
I could care less about the election. So
yeah, all right, we'll do it then. We got it. That's fine.
Whenever Paul can go, I'd go.
Yeah. We're not going to find out who our new president is anyway, because
the votes are they're going to keep counting votes until they get the desired result. It might be Thursday or Friday before we know anything.
I don't even know if it'll be that soon. Here in California,
in swing space, we got to do that.
Yeah, in California, as long as you got it in the mail and postmarked by November 5th, they don't have to receive it until November 10th. I think that's the stupidest thing in the world when you have an election on November 5th. Take away the mail-in votes. Get rid of them.
But it's not like California's up for grabs. So, I mean, at least in the presidential race, that's
the reason why they don't. That's why they don't come here. This one's Harris all the way. The state's a blue state.
It won't be till Saturday. Oh, more ballots. Oh. Yeah, I could care less about the presidential election. It is
Dolph
what
had to keep Pat in the press conference. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, maybe he got so fired up that he was getting ready to leave.
Yeah, they probably had to keep him in the press box. Is maybe.
Oh, that's probably what he meant. Yeah. He does say the press box later on.
And Pat's a pretty big boy, so Dolph is like, I can't hold this SOB in here.
But I loved it. I loved it when they were interviewing Kirk, because I always listen to the post game show. And I just love the rapport between Pat and Kirk. They have a rapport there for some reason. It's really nice.
They're a former player. They know each other. They love each other. Yeah.
Okay, did you guys – this is one other question for me. Did you guys see the YouTube video floating around where he's hugging some black guy in the tunnel who's not a current player but must be a former player? Then he turns around and he hugs Dallas Clark. I'm just trying to figure out who the black player was. If you guys – he's obviously a former player.
I didn't hear about it, and I didn't see it.
Well, there's a video floating around of it as he's walking into the tunnel. They're waiting for him.
Well, I mean, that's every. Go ahead.
Yeah, who was the honorary captain? I thought it was Babineau.
It was Babineau was the Washington game. I was there for that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably who it was. I don't think Dallas Clark was the honorary captain this time, was he?
Not that I.
No, I doubt it.
But he was there.
Yeah, he's been at most games. They also put his number up, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that? 2 Clarks at the University of Iowa. One in football, one in basketball. Never mind. I'm not even thinking straight.
No, you're fine. What was it, Marshall?
Okay, Marshall Yonda. Isn't he still playing NFL?
No, he's retired.
Did he retire?
No, he
couldn't have been that long.
He retired as one of the best freaking offensive linemen.
I hate to point out the obvious here, but unless Marshall is spending way too much time in the tanning bed, he's not black.
All right, then that wasn't Marshall. He was hugging.
I mean, you're 100% spot on. He's not.
If you don't know that Marshall Yonda played tackle at the University of Iowa, then he ain't black.
Paul said it. I like Hink says, Paul said it. Paul said it. Everybody put your fingers up, Paul.
I wasn't going to say it. I was just shaking my head. But
I think Hank is agreeing with me that it was Babineau.
Yeah.
All
right. Who are the special guests for the game against Nebraska? I have no idea.
I don't
So
know.
Yonda was the honorary captain, and Babineau was apparently the one that was hugging coach.
It's Babineau, like at LSU.
Yeah.
Think that the LSU, it's Babineau.
It's like EAUX on the end or something.
Yeah. My son, it was hilarious when he was trying to pronounce the name. Like when he was the captain at that game, and my son was trying to say it. And I was like, it's Babineau. He was trying to use all those letters with his college education, and it didn't quite go good. His business degree didn't teach him how to say names.
Well, maybe for Nebraska, the Nebraska game, it'll be the other Marshall. Instead of Marshall Yonda, it'll be Marshall, the kicker.
Oh, yeah. Big E was there. Big E's there a lot as well.
Yeah.
He comes to a lot of games.
Yeah.
They always seem to bring him on when they do any kind of a game day there, too. They like to bring him because he's pure entertainment.
Well, yeah, that's why.
Have you guys ever seen him fight or wrestle?
I haven't.
I haven't either. I just wonder if
I don't get into that stuff, but he is an entertainer. He should probably get into acting, like become a movie star type, because he is an entertainer.
All right.
But all right.
I think that's a good place for us to end. Guys, a good show tonight. I don't think we accomplished everything we wanted. I didn't get a chance to talk about it. I'll have to change the headline. But anyhow, it was a good show.
To answer who I want them to look at as a coach is G.J. Kinney. He's the head coach at Texas Tech. He runs the veer and shoot. Just to throw that out there at Hank and let him go look at a name. I love his offense. It would be kind of fun. Okay. That's my ending statement.
Sean Green was the Washington game? I did not know that.
I don't know if he was there or not. But Babineau was the captain or whatever. Honorary
but
captain.
I mean, that was Washington game was homecoming, wasn't it? No, that was Northwestern. Never mind.
Yeah, it was Northwestern. And they honored that whole 2014.
Oh, yes.
So,
at Washington. At Washington. At the Washington game, they had the 2014 there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Was Babineau on the 2014?
Oh, yeah.
That would make sense then. Babs
and Roth were the two ends.
Yeah, Babineau showed up as a running back. You guys know that? And they made him
fullback.
Fullback. Yeah, and they made him a defensive lineman.
Yeah, Iowa has a way of taking talent and figuring out what they can do so they can get them on the field a lot of times, what they're going to be better at and how they can get them to play, much like making Rezar a wide receiver who's no longer got a blown out knee. Yeah. So it'd be even doubtful we even see him next year.
I think that the Rezar situation is just their lack of depth at wide receiver. Let's see what he can do. It could turn into a huge, great situation because he has so much speed.
Jacob, thank you. Happy 7th birthday. I'm glad you had a great day.
Happy 7th birthday, Jacob. On Halloween even. Hey, what was he for Halloween? I love that stuff. Just curious. What was he for Halloween? Please tell me you didn't just put a sheet over him, cut out a couple eyes.
Did you see this? Eric All tore his ACL today.
That's disappointing.
That's, is that what he tore last year?
I think so.
I think
that's what he did last year. He was Bumblebee. Hell yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
I love Bumblebee.
Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Remember when the Hawkeye fans used to be called Bumblebees?
Yeah, but he's talking about the Transformers, Dean.
Oh, got it. You know, that's how old I am. I'm out of it.
But I was rolling with Dean because of the color of Bumblebee, right? So I was rolling with Dean on the colors. But yeah.
Well, back in the day, back when Hayden Fry took over and stuff, the Hawkeye fans were known as the Bumblebees.
Right. And then they had the banana peel jerseys, and
Yeah.
That lasted one season.
That's all before our time, Dean. You're showing your age on that one.
But don't you guys your age love hearing my stories and the guys that watch us?
Because Nebraska was. Do you remember Nebraska being the Bug Eaters? How far back does that go? Because Nebraska
Jared,
was.
no. Yeah, let me tell Jared real quick. Jared, no, those messages didn't come over from that thing. We had to scratch that because we were having technical difficulties and start from scratch. Yeah. So if you want to, we'll wait for you if you want to throw it back up there real quick, and we'll give you our comments.
But yeah, the Nebraska wasn't Iowa called the Cornhuskers before Nebraska. I mean, there's a whole thing around here about Nebraska being the Bug Eaters and Iowa being the Cornhuskers, and then Iowa changed to the Hawkeyes, so Nebraska took the name Cornhuskers.
I'll have to look on the history on that. That's interesting if that's true.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's actually people talk about around here is how they always brag about taking the name Cornhuskers and then making it better.
Well, didn't they drop the corn and now they're just the Huskers?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I always forget that. You're right.
They'll always be the Cornhuskers to me, but
yeah, I completely forgot they did drop the corn. They're the Huskers.
Yeah.
Or the Skurs for the cool Husker fans around here. You watching the Skurs? Who?
No.
I watch a team that plays football. Who's the Skurs?
Yeah.
No. I think a lot of that has to do with Penn State more than Wisconsin. They played well against Penn State because they were struggling on offense when their starting quarterback went down early. And they had to bring in their backup, and they just kind of figured it out. And it was like Lester was there because the second half, Penn State took off. So
maybe that's what's wrong with Nebraska. They have an identity crisis, right? Like they don't know if they're the Bug Eaters, the Black Shirts, the Corn Huskers, the Huskers, the Corn Suckers. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I'm borrowing that, Paul. Yeah. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah. Guys, what this reminds me, what team not on our schedule this year from the Big Ten would you like to play that have a shot at?
Michigan.
Mine is Michigan.
Yeah, mine's Michigan as well. I would love to see what they could do without having a quarterback against Iowa's defense.
Yeah.
Like legit, they look like Iowa, right? They legit, although go ahead.
They look like a less good version of Iowa. Like they look like us, but not as good.
Well, yeah, their style looks like us, but their whole offensive line doesn't even compete. They don't have. You could tell they lost a lot of linemen to the NFL. Like they don't have a soul on the offensive side of the ball at Michigan.
Jared, I think half of the Big Ten teams could beat Michigan this year. I think he's right.
And they have.
Yeah, that's why we want to play them.
Yeah, and they,
what is their Big Ten record? Like 3-3, 3-4? Anybody know?
I think they're 3-3, but again, their upcoming, the rest of their schedule is at Indiana, Ohio State, and I forget who the third one is, but it's a game that I wouldn't put down for them to win.
You're right. They're 3-3. They're 5-4 overall. They're not even bowl eligible yet.
You're not below, and their remaining games at Indiana, they're not going to win that. They're playing Ohio State. They're not going to win that. And their other game might be against like Minnesota.
It's Northwestern.
Oh, Northwestern.
They should win that. So they're going to be. They'll be bowl eligible.
You know what?
I'm going to be a Wild Kitty fan that day.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, so Northwestern could beat Michigan. I mean, anybody could if they can. They still have a good defense.
Right.
They just don't know how to win without an offense to like the way Kirk does. People talk smack about Kirk, but he can win without a quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
I want to say something. I think
Go ahead.
when I asked God for 11-1 season, regular season for Iowa, I think he misunderstood me and he's given it to Indiana instead. And now he's looking up there. Oh, did I make the wrong team win?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. Indiana, they went and they got a great quarterback from Ohio. I mean, I love that kid when he was at Ohio. I always said he should be if he was playing for a Power 4 team, he'd be extremely good. Kind of like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's quarterback is a transfer from New Mexico State who looked like a man among boys when he was at New Mexico State. They went to a bowl game a couple years ago with him. Yeah. That's what the portal is doing, right? So if you come out of high school and you don't get that offer, but you ball out at like Ohio, make other teams notice you. This kid coming from Ohio to Indiana, I mean, he looks just like he did in Ohio uniform. So that just tells you because the talent around him is upgraded, just like the competition. So he's still just as good, but the talent around him is still good, and the competition is still good. So like he looks exactly the same. And that kid at Vanderbilt, holy good God, he's taken a team without hardly any talent that wasn't supposed to win, and he just beat Auburn. Like he's got Vanderbilt on the cusp of going to a bowl game if they're not already bowl eligible. Okay, so they are bowl eligible. I mean, he looks like he did at New Mexico State. That kid is fun to watch. I mean, Iowa fans love all these running quarterbacks, which is what the kid at Vanderbilt is. However, the kid at Vanderbilt has pinpoint accuracy as well, right? He runs around, but he runs around like J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy could run, but he had an arm to go along with his running ability. That's what we need is if you guys want somebody who can run, we need somebody who can run and throw. Both.
And just because I want to pile on Nebraska for a moment, just because I do, they are the proud owners of 2 records, currently the longest bowl drought as a power conference team. And their men's basketball team is the only power conference team to have never won an NCAA tournament game. So
really, they didn't win this past year because they were a pretty decent team this year.
No, but they didn't win in the tournament.
They didn't win.
Yeah, that's right.
That's amazing.
You're right. Did you guys know this? Iowa State is ranked 5th in the country. The men.
Oh, the men.
Men
and basketball.
Women.
Yeah.
Yes, in basketball. I had no clue that the men were that good. The women I knew were good. I mean, they have Audie. Audie Crooks is a beast.
Yeah. The men. And I noticed that Audie, I was watching highlights of her game the other night. She's put on even more weight.
Oh, God.
No way.
She did. Just look at her. Unless the YouTube video I was looking at that highlight was at a bad angle.
How many cameras did you have on her? Cameras add 10 pounds. How many cameras did you have? Because there's no way, because they really struggled a year ago with her. Like if they changed their game plan where if they had a fast break going, they would take it. But then if they didn't, they would literally stop the offense to run half court and let Audie get down, right? And she struggles getting back on defense. There's no way she gained weight.
Okay, well, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but she looks heavier this year than she did last year. However, I believe we've got the answer to Audie Crooks and Ava Hayden. I believe that girl is going to be something special at center. She may be able to go up against Crook this year and teach Cook what a freshman should do.
I think Iowa should just run because nobody can handle. That's what everybody said about that tall white girl from Stanford who was like the number 2 draft pick.
I thought she was from UCLA. Well, I thought she was from UCLA. She was from Stanford?
I think it's Stanford, but you guys can correct me.
I know. We know exactly who you're talking about. She got hurt early in the season for this guy.
People said that about her because she's like 6'8", like 6, like she's extremely tall. And in the tournament, Audie just whipped her butt. So you can't do nothing with Audie. She's 6'3", but she used to weigh like 250. I mean, if she really gained, I mean, that's scary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stanford. Cameron Brink. Thank you, Hank. Hank
Yeah,
and
Cameron
Kelvin.
Brink. Yeah.
You got two people on your show, Hank and Kelvin, that just know their stuff.
Yeah. Hank says, do you think Nebraska will make a bowl this year? I remember the rest of their schedule. Honestly, I think there's one game they can still win on there, but I can't remember what it is.
The UCLA game was supposed to be their best
Sure.
shot because I think they still have to play Minnesota maybe.
Is their coach on the hot seat because they've had 3 shots at this and 3 winnable games to get bowl eligible, and they haven't done it yet?
I mean, anybody's on the hot seat at Nebraska. The problem is they gave this guy $8 million a year. Think about paying a coach $8 million a year, and Iowa fans are complaining about paying Kirk $7 million.
Right.
Compare the difference. I mean, this is insane. I mean, I know I've been digging on Iowa fans today, but I just had too much fun with them, and they're just crazy and insane, some of them. So
yeah.
But think about
Hank says that Crook gained weight. She's big.
Nebraska has USC. They can't stop anybody, and Nebraska's defense is okay. That could be a win for Nebraska. USC is bad.
Where's the
They're
game?
4-5. USC, it's at USC, and they're 4-5. So USC's got to win 2 more to get to a bowl game. They got Wisconsin, who can't stop anybody. So that's just another offensive game. Whoever turns the ball over. And then they got Iowa. So they do have Wisconsin and USC. I mean, they could win one of those because neither team plays defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that Nebraska USC game, I'm almost guaranteeing that's going to be a night game because it's TBD. Unless it's a big noon kickoff. But
the Wisconsin game is in Lincoln. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, 2 of their 3 games are on the road. At USC, at Iowa. They have a bye week this week, and then they're going to California. So we'll see.
Okay. Oh, you're right. You're right. They do. So I mean, they could beat USC. Like I said, Wisconsin. Neither Wisconsin or USC plays defense. So those games are up in the air. When you don't play defense, it's just about if you can outscore the other team, right? So it just depends on turnovers and everything else.
Jared, I want to correct you. They won 8 out of the 10 matches. I read up on it this morning. I do want to do a preview show with you on the wrestling when you're ready. If Paul would like to join us, he could too.
I haven't really had a chance to look into the wrestling team, but yeah, I mean, if I'm available, I'm happy to come on.
Mm-hmm. I won't be, guys. I don't know shnikes about that. No clue about wrestling. Yeah, Hank, it does come down to the turnovers.
Yeah.
Yes, they have 5 wins.
Yeah.
All right. Are we just about done?
I think we're going to say we're done.
This is literally like we're at a bar drinking a beer because we're just bull crapping our way through. We really are. We're just, every time we're like, okay, we should be about done. And all of a sudden somebody will come up with something. I'll talk for an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, this is fun, guys. I like this. This is kind of how I envision the show, just sitting at the bar drinking, and then we're trying to get away from each other to go home to our wives, and for some reason we keep coming up with more stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're all in a good mood because we, won 42.
Yeah. Got to play a little
pickle. I predicted would happen.
Always got to play a little pickle tickle with the wife, so we got to get going here.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let's end this now before we actually try to stay and do it again. Do a second show in the same show. There we go. All right, guys. I'll see you on Tuesday. Bye.
Bye,
Bye, everybody. Terry apparently left early on us. Okay. Bye, Paul.